Ustedes que queremos conocer a Martín un poco más como ser humano, como la persona que está detrás de toda esta gran cantidad de innovaciones que nos ha traído. Entonces, queremos procesarlas de una manera un poco más formal y también, pues obviamente, hacerlo de manera directa con ustedes. Entonces, les recuerdo nuevamente el hashtag Moodle14 y estamos haciendo el experimento. Adelante.
I also have some questions for you.
Okay. También va a ser preguntas para ustedes. Este es un compensador de lo que ya nos da. Entonces, los micrófonos están listos para que puede ser por speeches o puede ser también personal acá de esta
So the question was, has Moodle thought of building graphical tools for making content stuff in Moodle? So we have, it's really hard to translation on myself at the same time. So when you say Moodle, in this case, that's the community. So we have obviously the editor, and in 2.7 we just made a new editor, and this new editor is more functional than ever before in that it's a Moodle native piece of software, and it's easy for developers now to make plugins to extend the editor and give it new functionality. So already I've seen some very interesting plugins. For example, some people have been talking about for some time the idea of small blocks of content that you would, like little templates, that you would have maybe on a menu, and you could insert them into the content very easily. So maybe, for example, you might have a small block of content that says, maybe it has a small picture of a person, and it says tip. It has a small comment, it's an extra tip, right? Maybe it's a nice little graphical thing. So you could reuse that, and throughout the content that you're adding in your course, you could add these little tips on the side as a little graphic design device, but also to break up the content. So someone already made a plugin for the new editor that lets you define these little pieces of content, and you can insert them into your text just from a menu. And you can define those little blocks at the site level. So the administrator could define lots of these little pieces of content. And so that's a tool that helps you build content quickly. But I imagine the community will come up with more and more interesting plugins for the editor. And that's the place to do it, probably, to create content. Because if you do it in that editor, you can do it everywhere in Moodle. So if you want to make a forum post with fancy stuff, you can do it. If you want to make a glossary entry or anything. So, yeah. So I guess it's been in the conversation a lot, but we're not specifically making a new particular tool. We're just trying to make the platform support these tools to develop.
A Roger Escobar por esta pregunta. Hay una pregunta relacionada y es si todos los desarrollos de Moodle deben ser open source, incluso si no se publican a la comunidad. Todos los plugins de Moodle deben ser liberados como open source también.
Yes, mostly, because the way the GPL license works, if you take any code that is GPL licensed and you change it or put it into something else, then the new code is also GPL. But you are not required to release the code. So you can make your own module and keep it on your own site, and you don't have to share it with anybody. It will be GPL still. It's almost impossible, I think, to write Moodle code without looking at Moodle itself or taking at least 1 or 2 lines from it. So yes, it's sort of forced to be GPL. Which is one thing, that's why I picked the GPL. It has this viral nature, and it kind of enforces freedom, a bit like the police in the streets. So it's a good thing for the community that is like
that. Lo he leído en su página, ¿cierto? Yo quisiera de primera voz que usted me dijera por qué Moodle fue construido sobre el enfoque del constructivismo social.
Well, so I'll tell you a bit more of the backstory. Right? So I was working at my university, Curtin University in Perth, and I was helping the teachers there using the new technologies of the internet. And because I had a lot of experiences with my own schooling as a child, I was learning on shortwave radio, and then later I was in the internet very early at a young age, before the web. So I was doing a lot of interactions with people on the internet, and I had this very strong sense that the internet was being built by its users, and that there was a lot of collaboration, and there was a lot of two-way conversations going on. But when the web came, it became a very one-way medium. The web was much more about publishing and static pages. And I was helping the teachers trying to move their courses that were in real-life environments to take advantage of the internet, but the tools that were there were very much about just transmitting information. And I could see that there was a problem. I was looking for different tools and trying them, and I couldn't find anything that was good. And I thought, I have to build something here, because there's all this potential, and yet there's nothing that does what I want. And there's a lot of story in there, I'll skip quickly, but so when I started building it, I realized that I needed to know more about the theories behind communication and about education. And I met one of the teachers that I was helping. I met him in a department in my university. He had a very strong sense of this. He was an education researcher, and I had really good conversations with him. And I said, will you be my supervisor for a master's degree so I can learn more? And yes, so I did a master's with him, and he became my mentor. His name's Peter Taylor, and I still see him now. Then I did a PhD following that as well. And in the course of that, I could really see that there was this theory of social constructionism, as I call it, sort of a number of very obvious things to teachers, that have come out over the last couple of thousand years. So the first part is that you can't put information into someone's brain. You can give them experiences so that their brain constructs the knowledge. And they're only constructing on top of the knowledge they have. So like Vygotsky, the things you were talking about yesterday, they're talking about this notion of giving an optimal environment for the person to build their own knowledge. The constructionism is more about the fact that this process in your mind occurs better when you are doing something, when you are physically doing something. It can still just be speaking. So by creating sentences and by formulating thoughts, you're also learning, you're teaching yourself. By building objects, by creating projects, you're teaching yourself, because there's a lot of feedback going on between your hands and your body and the knowledge. And the social constructionism just takes that into a social dimension. So if you have people that are interacting with each other, creating things for each other, that they are learning together. And this is the essence of collaborative learning. We're all sharing things with each other. Now, back in 1999, when I was really getting into this, the web was not like that. The web was still very much transmission. Those of us who've been on the internet in the early 90s, we understood it could be more interactive. But now, of course, the web is very collaborative. Look at Twitter, look at Google, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. We're all sharing and we're all learning from each other continuously. It's just in a very wide, diffused way. So the Moodle I was building was like a mini internet for the students and the teachers to be having that kind of experience, but in a protected environment. And the idea of having all these tools in Moodle was to kind of emulate the things that were coming up on the internet. So we have wikis, we have forums, we have glossaries, we have assignments, we have quizzes, we have all these different ways of interacting with each other and the content. And it's the teacher's job to create the right environment for the students to learn from the content, from the teacher, but especially from each other. And to create groups to make that kind of environment. So that's, I think that is still important today. Yes, you can teach using almost any technology. You know, a good teacher can probably just use Twitter as a student and can probably teach them a lot. But I think the idea of Moodle is that it is optimized for this stuff. It's the affordances. I don't know if you can translate that in Spanish. The affordances of the tools. Is to make it easier. And in fact, my thesis was that if I had a tool like Moodle that was built that way, the teachers would automatically understand it, and this type of teaching and learning would happen. And actually, I think my thesis failed somewhat. Because what I now realise is that because of constructivism, the teachers who come from a more from a different background of teaching, maybe more lecture-based, will take that onto the internet. They'll go on the internet and they'll give lectures on the internet as well. And they won't necessarily see the whole collaborative potential. So I think we still have a lot of work ahead of us to help teachers use the internet and maybe through Moodle, but just use the internet effectively in teaching and blending it with real-life experiences and all of that. Okay, so you can get me started and I can talk for a long time.
Buenos días.
Adelante, adelante.
Gracias. Buenos días, Martín. Tengo una pregunta alrededor de mundos virtuales. Básicamente muchas empresas en este momento están hablando de mundos virtuales, Second Life, de la integración. ¿Qué opinión tiene alrededor de la integración de Moodle con mundos virtuales como Second Life? Gracias.
Sure, thanks for that. I think we spoke yesterday a bit. But virtual worlds is an interesting thing because in the past, I think a lot of people have said, well, the web is now 2D, obviously the next generation must be 3D. And I don't believe that at all. In fact, I think a lot of the stuff about Second Life is hype. If you think about it, if you look at how people propose to use 3D Second Life environments for education, you know, this is how it works. The students are forced to download a very big piece of software, which only runs on desktop computers. And then they have to make an avatar, and they have to fly through some environment and get lost to eventually find some place. And in that place, they're made to sit in virtual chairs and watch a video or look at something, when in fact it's so much easier just to have a link that you click on in a web browser that takes you to a web page that has a video or anything. Almost all the things you can do in Second Life are much more effectively done just on the web. If you wanted to have a demonstration or an animation, do that with HTML or Flash or put a video. You know, there's many ways to show things that don't require a big three-dimensional world. The other problem I have with Second Life particularly is that it is a commercial platform, and it's not open. You can't, it doesn't have the